The political history of Deccan and South India focused on the conflict between two geographic regions. One was the Western Deccan and the other was the Tamilakam region. Now, by Western Deccan, we mean the region which was located in the coastal plateau area and which was enclosed by the hills. And Tamilakam or Tamilaham means the region to the south of Chennai. This region was a very fertile region. Now, during the early medieval period, that is around 600 CE, what we find is that the small chiefships or small kingdoms were giving away to larger kingdoms. And in the court also, we find that during in the peninsular portion of India, that we have a shifting between the local cultures and the input of the Sanskritic culture. So there is an interface between the local culture and the Sanskritic culture in the courts of the peninsular India. Now, when we look at the political history or the political formation of the region, we find that it is marked by conflicts between mainly two ruling houses. One was the Chalukyas of Badami or Batapi, which is nearer to Bijapur area in North Karnataka, and the other is the Pallavas of Tamil Nadu. They were actually located in the Tondai Mandalam area. Now, apart from the Chalukyas and the Pallavas, we have another party or another player who played an important role in the struggle between these two major powers. They were the Pandyas, who were settled in the Madurai region. As regards the Chalukyas, the main seat of power was Batapi or Badami, and they also had access to the adjacent regions of Aihole and moved in the northern part of the Karnataka and also to the areas where the Vakatakas were ruling during the earlier part. Moreover, we find from the Aihole inscription that the Chalukyas were also controlling areas of the Konkan coast, which were very important for trading network. For example, in the inscription we have the Chalukyan conquest of Rebati Diva, which was the Goa region. We have reference to the conquest of Elephanta, which we all know is near Bombay. So the control of these regions actually gave them a much larger control over the trading network of the Konkan coast. Now, the first ruler of the Chalukya dynasty, as gleaned from the Aihole inscription, was Pulakeshin I. The term Pulakeshin means a lion who is very powerful, a big lion or a very powerful lion. Now, after that, we find that Pulakeshin, on his accession to the throne, they were the feudatories of the Kadambas. So, they broke away from the Kadamba rule and then held a firm footing in the Karnataka region. So, on his accession, he fortified the city of Vatapi and became the ruler of Vatapi Pura or the city of Vatapi. He was succeeded by his son Kirtivarman I, who in the inscription it is said that drove away the Kadambas of Vanavasi, the Mauryas of Konkan and the Nalas. Now, these Nalas were ruling in the Chhattisgarh area of present day India. So, having controlled the regions of the Nalas, the Mauryas and the Kadambas, we find that the Chalukyas had a firm footing in Western Deccan. Mahendravarman was succeeded for a brief period by his brother Mangalesha because his son Pulakeshin was a minor, and later on Pulakeshin had to fight his way to get the throne of the Chalukyas. He had to fight with his uncle Mangalesha. Now, on his accession to the throne, Pulakeshin II embarked on a series of conquests. And within this series of conquests, the first and the primary importance was those of the encounters with the Pallavas. Now, from the inscriptions, we learn that Pulakeshin II, immediately after his accession to the throne and after his conquest of Eastern Deccan, he established two viceregal houses of the Chalukyas. One was in southern Gujarat and the other was in the Vengi region, present day Andhra Pradesh region. So we have the latter Chalukyas, that is latter was the country of Gujarat, and we have the eastern Chalukyas of Vengi. The fact remains that after establishing a viceregal house in the Andhra region, Pulakeshin further wanted to go downwards into the southern region. And from the inscription, we learn that he defeated the Vishnukundins who were ruling at that time in the Andhra region, and the Vishnukundins actually succumbed to his power. Now, when we look at the scenario of the Pallavas, we find that the Pallava ruler was Mahendravarman I, who was ruling in the northern part of the Tamil Nadu region, that is, which is known in history as the Tondai Mandalam region. Now, they were also moving further up to have some control over the Andhra region. Immediately after the conflict or after defeating Vishnukundin, Pulakeshin's main thrust was conquering the Pallava region. Mahendravarman was a genius. He was genius at war, and he was also a very good literator, because we know that he was the author of three texts like Mattavilasa, Vichitrachitta and Gunavara. At the same time, he was very good at war. So when Pulakeshin embarked upon the conquest of the Pallava domain, Mahendravarman I tried to give him a good fight. But unfortunately, Pulakeshin defeated the Pallava army, and Mahendravarman had to take refuge within the city walls of Kanchipuram. Now, after this conquest, Pulakeshin went back with a design to come back again. And we know that after a few years, Pulakeshin again embarked on a conquest of the Pallava country, now with a view to enter the capital city of Kanchipuram. In the meantime, Mahendravarman had expired. His reign period can be said to be between 590 to 630 CE, and his son Narasinghavarman succeeded him. Narasinghavarman's reign period extended from 630 to 668. He was also a very able ruler. So he gave a tough fight to Pulakeshin, and finally Pulakeshin could not enter the city of Kanchipuram. On the other hand, we know that there were different phases of war, and in one of the warfare, in the battle which is known in history as the Battle of Manimangala, which was just 20 miles east of Kanchipuram, the Chalukya army was defeated. The Chalukya army retreated to Badami, but Narasinghavarman was bent on attacking the Chalukyas, and so he moved with his full force to the Chalukyan capital Batapi. There he destroyed Batapi. The Chalukyan army was totally defeated, and perhaps Pulakeshin fell in this warfare. He died actually during this war with Narasimhavarman. Narasimhavarman took the title of Batapi Konda, which means the destroyer of Batapi. After the death of Pulakeshin, the Chalukya kingdom faced a challenge because immediately after his death, the feudatories declared themselves independent, and there was also vying for power among the sons of Pulakeshin II. But finally, one of Pulakeshin's son Vikramaditya, he with the help of his grandfather, the Ganga King Durvinita, could sit on the throne. He was very successful in contending the feudatories. They were all diminished, and he also could successfully take care of his brothers who were vying for this throne. Thus, the Pallava ruler Narasimhavarman had to leave the Chalukya country on the accession of Vikramaditya, and the Chalukya domain remained united. During this conflict, or during the years of this conflict, we see that one of the brothers of Vikramaditya, Jayasimhavarman, he helped him throughout with much of armies and support. Now, Vikramaditya rewarded him by giving him the viceroyalty of the latter region. So, Jayasimhavarman was now placed on the throne of southern Gujarat, and that frontier was secured for Vikramaditya. He now turned his focus towards the Pallavas. He could not forget the defeat that was inflicted upon by Narasimhavarman on his father and the capture of Vatapipura by him, and therefore he embarked on a war along with his grandfather, the Ganga King Durvinita. Here we have to remember that in the political scenario, these feudatories played a very important role, and we see that sometimes they supported the king who was their own ruler, or sometimes they went against that king and supported the other ruler. So their role cannot be undermined when we study the political history of the peninsula. Another dynasty which played a serious role was the Pandyas. Now, the Pandyas were natural ally of the Chalukyas, because if you look at the territory of the Pandyas, they were ruling in the southern part of Tamil Nadu. The Pandya ruler was Maravarman, and he was trying to move further north and capture the Pallava territory. So naturally, when the Chalukyas were fighting with the Pallavas, the Pandyas became an ally of the Chalukya ruler Vikramaditya II. Narasimhavarman expired in 668, and he was succeeded for a very brief period by his son Mahendravarman II. But within this brief period, Mahendravarman II encountered a kind of conflict with Vikramaditya. But after Mahendravarman II, his son Parameshwaravarman I ascended the throne. Vikramaditya led a series of campaigns against the Kanchi ruler. It was practically with the help of Durvinita, the Ganga ruler, as mentioned earlier. He could lay siege on the capital of the Pallava domain. Parameshwaravarman fled away, and he was resting in exile in a neighboring place, and there he actually gathered army. He raised army from around the feudatories and the military persons who were settled in the hills around, and therefore with a strong army, Parameshwaravarman attacked the Chalukyas. In the meantime, Vikramaditya settled in Urayur region, which is nearer to the Kanchi capital. Parameshwaravarman laid siege on Urayur. There was a strong battle in Urayur and Vikramaditya had to move away to the Chalukya territory. Vikramaditya was succeeded by Vinayaditya, and during his rule we do not have any information regarding the conflict. So it was a tenure of peace and harmony for both the groups. But after that he was succeeded by Vikramaditya II, who again started the legacy of this conflict between the two powers. The conflict between the Pallavas and the Chalukyas was again renewed. But before that, what happened is that we find that there was this threat of Arab invasion from the Sindh area. The Arabs had already settled in the Sindh area and they were now trying to move further down and control the coastal areas, of course because of the trading potential of these areas. During this conflict with the Arabs, the latter house, the latter Chalukyas, they played a very decisive role. We find that the ruler of the latter Chalukya house, Pulakeshin, defeated the Arabs and therefore secured the condition of the mainland Chalukya house. Vikramaditya became very happy and he conferred on Pulakeshin the title Avani Janasraya, which means the refuge of the world. He then ventured upon, along with the prince of the Ganga family, Eriyappa, and the grandfather Durvinata, to the Pallava territory. The Pallava ruler at that time was also Parameshwaravarman, whom we have encountered earlier. Parameshwaravarman thought that he could give a strong fight to the Chalukyas, but unfortunately he could not stand the battle and he was killed by the Ganga king Sri Purusha in a battle in Viland near the Kanchipuram. With this death, there was again a turmoil in the Pallava family regarding succession. He died without any successor and therefore Nandivarman II from a collateral branch was brought in by the Council of Ministers with the approval of the College of Priests, and he became the ruler of the Pallava kingdom. During this fight with Parameshwaravarman, we find that the Ganga king Durvinita, he actually snatched away the umbrella of the Pallava family along with huge amount of booties and jewels that belong to the Pallavas. It is important to mention here that the Pallavas were supposed to be very rich and therefore the Pallava dynasty was always under attack from different power groups. One reason was that the location of the territory, and we have instances from the inscriptions that they actually used the forest land into cultivable land. So there was a rich agrarian base. Along with it, we had timbers and elephants, and therefore the Pallava territory was a coveted zone for anyone who was coming from the north of the Tungabhadra. Now with the accession of Nandivarman II, who was not very old at that time when he became the king, there was a kind of turmoil. But ultimately he could manage this with all his feudatories and fight back Vikramaditya II. What is interesting here is that when Vikramaditya II seized Kanchi, he actually did not destroy Kanchipuram. We find that he built many temples, he gave heaps of gold to that had been taken by the Chalukyas as a booty and were given to the people, in fact as if he were trying to drive away the disgrace that had fallen on the Chalukya family with the capture of Vatapi by Narasimhavarman II. After besieging Kanchipuram and staying there for some time, the Chalukyan prince returned to the Chalukya territory. He then later on sent his son Kirtivarman II to fight again with the Pallavas, knowing that Nandivarman II was not in a very secure position owing to his age. So when Kirtivarman attacked the Pallava territory, Nandivarman had to flee away. But later on, with the help of Udaya Chandra, who was a feudatory of Nandivarman and who always fought from the Pallava side, he defeated Durvinita, the Ganga ruler, and took back the jewel which was there in the necklace of the Pallava dynasty. It was a very famous necklace and the gem was known as Ugrodaya. Kirtivarman was the last ruler of the Chalukya line and he was displaced by the Chalukyan feudatory the Rastrakutas. The Rashtrakuta dynasty was founded by Donti Durgo, who was ruling in the area around Mahi, Narmada and these regions. So now what happened is that with the weakening of the position of the Chalukyan monarch, Dantidurga declared himself independent and he tried to capture the Pallava territory as well. So he set out on an attack to the Pallava territory and the Pallava ruler Nandivarman II gave him a hard fight, but gradually we find that Nandivarman agreed to marry the daughter of Donti Durga, whose name was Reva. Now with this matrimonial alliance, Donti Durga started supporting the Pallava ruler. In the meantime, by around 753-54, we find that Donti Durga finally defeated the Chalukyan monarch Kirtivarman and became the ruler of the Chalukyan territory and established the new house of the Rashtrakutas. We have referred to earlier of another dynasty, that of the Pandyas, who were also vying for the Pallava territory and who were the natural ally of the Chalukyas. Now with Dantidurga's support, Nandivarman was in a position to fight the Pandyas, and we find that when Nandivarman Pallava Malla tried to have a confederacy of rulers against the Pandyas, and there was continuous fighting between the two groups. So in that confederacy, one group was the Kongu, but finally or unfortunately we can say that this confederacy did not stick to each other and the Pandya king was able to defeat the Kongu ruler and the Kongu kingdom came within the Pandya territory. The Pandya expanded towards the north. Unfortunately, the Chalukyas quitted 100 years earlier. The Pallavas could stay back for another 100 years and finally the Pallava ruler was defeated by Aditya I, the Chola ruler, and the entire Pallava kingdom came within the Chola territory. In conclusion, we may say that there was a set pattern of the rivalry between basically the two houses, and the pattern was that the powers were always trying to control the rivers and to control the Raichur Doab region, which was actually the rice bowl of the region. When we look at the history of this peninsula and far south, we find that even after the Chalukya Pallava rivalry, the river Tungabhadra continued to be a boundary for the powers to the north of the Tungabhadra and the powers to the south of the Tungabhadra. And thus we have confrontation between the Chalukyas and the Chalukyas and the Pallavas, the Rastrakutas and the Cholas and the Western Chalukyas, and this continued for ages in spite of any kind of dynastic changes or any kind of dynastic upheavals.